Now, what do you think about the fact that the London Assembly has passed a motion calling for migrants to get free travel around the capital? What's your reaction to that? Give us a call, 03444 991 1000. You can use that number to send us a WhatsApp or leave us a voice note on the same platform. Text us 8722, put talk before your message, or you can get in touch with us on X at TalkTV. Standard network rates apply. I'm joined for the next 3 hours. Thank goodness, I say, thank goodness, by Russell Quirk.
Well, we'll see about that, won't we?
Yeah,
hopefully you'll still be saying that after 3 hours.
I had one of those things where I went out for dinner last night and then I got a call while I was at dinner and said, oh, will you come on Good Morning Britain really early in the morning? And I was like, oh, go on then. I thought, I'll do it. Anyway, I got up really early, dragged my sorry corpse out of bed, trying to blink my eyes open in the darkness of the wee small hours, made myself a cup of tea, only to get a phone call saying, oh, we've dropped the segment. And I'm like, oh, so
I don't know how you would have coped with the woke fest, really. Good Morning Britain.
I'm a kind of balancing act, like we do here sometimes. We have our
I guess, but GMB is just woke treacle, isn't it, really?
I can take him down.
Well, you can, definitely. But maybe that's why they dropped the segment. They thought, oh, no. Alex,
oh, dear.
Why did we book her? That was a mistake.
Why did we do that?
Yeah.
But, so I didn't do it because they didn't do it, and so here I am. But I do feel like I need matchsticks to keep my eyes open today, unfortunately. Okay.
Well, I'm sure we can invigorate the conversation over the next 3 hours.
I do find sometimes I come in here and I'm a bit like, oh, and by the time I come out, it's like having 55 cups of coffee. It's sort of, it does liven you up.
Well, what we need is some callers.
What we do need is some callers. There you go. It's like almost like a charity appeal today. Give Alex a helping hand. Alex is very sleepy. So why don't you perk her up? The number to give her a kick in the ribs is 03444 991 1000. We love to hear from you. Now let's talk about Donald Trump's first 100 days. There's loads of little videos going on social media at the moment where I keep seeing these sort of campaign pieces to camera. Especially there's one I was watching in the wee small hours. Where he's talking about how he's going to really cut down the swamp. He's going to drain the swamp, and he's talking about moving departments out to different parts of America, getting more executive powers for presidency, booting out leftists who persecute the right-wingers. And you think this is either, I mean, it's talking tough for sure, and it's either sort of Donald Trump going, I've had enough of the creep that's been happening. I think we get it in our own civil service, don't we? Or it's everything his detractors have said about him, that he is just like, that's it, I'm in charge. No one else.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's named his chief of staff, isn't he? Susie Hill, I think her name is, who was his who's his campaign manager. So he's certainly hit the ground running. I think his cabinet is going to be very, very interesting. It's looking like, isn't it, that Elon Musk is going to be cabinet member for efficiency, innovation. I mean, what a smart move that is. So, and he's really laid out this first 100 days. And let's just say that I suspect that Donald Trump's first 100 days might be in sharp contrast to Keir Starmer's first 100 days.
It's sharp contrast, although both of them seem to get out the scattergun of ideological policy making. I mean, let's talk a bit about the tariffs. Because obviously everyone's hand-wringing now. That's what they were going to get me on about this morning on a rival channel. Talking about whether we should be moving closer to the EU instead of America. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
To protect ourselves? No, we'll get a better deal than the EU.
Exactly.
But the problem is, as I'm sure we'll go on to, you know, the front bench of the Labour government, so particularly the Foreign Secretary David Lammy and indeed Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, who of course famously put a call into JD Vance yesterday with a tail between her legs to say, hi, you know, can we still be friends? They have not covered themselves in glory when it comes to diplomatic relations on the basis that the entire front bench at some point in the last few weeks and months have slated Donald Trump.
Some of them.
What's an incredibly stupid lack of judgment.
These people are just student politicians.
Yes.
You know, they were in opposition for so long that they just, you know, they don't think they exist unless they hear the sound of their own voice, or they're making some smart-ass
comments. So you're going to go through the comedy of some of the stuff that's been said.
Here's some. Humanity and dignity. 2 words not understood by President Trump. A truly great country treats all people with humanity and dignity. Well, there you go. That's not so bad, is it? I mean, it's...
Well, I think David Lammy there called him a white supremacist, I think, didn't he? And Trump and his supporters akin to Nazis. I mean, that's pretty full-on.
I'm so happy to see the back of Donald Trump, but even more so to see Kamala Harris as vice president. That's Angela Rayner. Yvette Cooper, when passion turns into poison, exploited by people like Donald Trump, when anger turns into inchoate rage. It's like a poem. Blimey, when the challenge to old institutions and failed traditions is turned instead into the undermining of our democratic rights, the leader of the free world built his campaign for the presidency on vitriol and abuse, the aggressive misogyny, the violent language towards Hillary Clinton, the Islamophobia, the xenophobia, the hatred.
So all of this stuff is stuff that's been said since he lost the presidency last time, so over the last 4 years or so. But the Labour Party at the time in opposition should have realised that, you know, particularly by way of the courage of their own convictions, that they could end up being in government, as they now are.
Well, that's what they were aiming to do.
And that Donald Trump could end up being the president again. So you would then join the dots. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of intelligence, does it, to think, hang on, we might end up in the same room as this guy.
Yeah, I know.
And particularly when it comes to talking about the special relationship, defence, and importantly, Alex, trade, to your point.
But this is not a JCR. This isn't a sixth form debating society. These are politicians sitting in the most important building in our country, the Palace of Westminster. They've been democratically elected by the public to represent the public's interest, which is probably to maintain cordial relationships with our closest ally and biggest trading partner. So whether they're on the front bench or not, using words like odious, sad little man, that's Wed Streeting, Ed Miliband, a racist bigot, David Lammy, racist KKK and Nazi sympathiser, David Lammy again, serial liar and a cheat. I mean, this is just unbecoming. They don't do that. This is the thing. Do they do that? They say things like that about Xi Jinping and the treatment of the Uyghur Muslims. They say that about Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia and some of the
journalist.
Right, exactly. Do they say this about any other worldly?
No.
They don't even say this about Vladimir Putin.
No, but it's the lack of kind of diplomacy, anticipation, the lack of judgment when it comes to the situation they could have been in and now are in. I mean, that must have been a very, very awkward call, really, for Angela Rayner to make to J.D. Vance because, you know, I don't suspect that... you know, she's his biggest fan either. The problem for them now is going to come, particularly when it comes to trade, and the fact that we do need to do a better deal than the EU could do. I mean, we certainly don't need to retreat to the EU to tell us how to trade. But to your point, of course, Donald Trump is a nationalist when it comes to commerce and trading. So he is absolutely going to protect American workers, in his view, which means that he's going to do things in terms of placing tariffs on imported goods. The other thing he's going to do...
60% on China, sliding down to 10% for other nations. But the thing is, Donald Trump is also a deal maker, right? And I think if we went to him and said, we'll support you in these areas and what we'd like is this, I don't think our little island, compared to America, is going to start threatening the sort of, you know, economic order of the United States. China, dumping of steel, electric vehicles, right, I get that.
Yeah.
But what we sell into their market, things like, you know, scotch and luxury vehicles, I can't see it
There's
being...
also an awful lot of British talent in the United States, so particularly in the media industry, film, TV, technology and so on. I don't think that will be lost on Donald Trump. They're also still presumably want to buy our Fortnum and Mason hampers and our Range Rovers, you know, as is the kind of staple of the celebrity class there. The other really interesting thing that Donald Trump's done, which when I was in the States last week I saw him announce live in a speech, which might explain why Elon Musk is such a fan of Donald Trump, actually, is that quite cleverly he has declared that all of the interest on car loans in the United States, so car loan interest, is going to be tax deductible. So that's quite a big deal if you
Right, yeah, well, that really boosts the industry.
Only on American-made cars.
And what's wrong with that?
That's great.
You know,
it's genius.
I think this is exactly the sort of policy we should have here if we made anything anymore. I mean, frankly, we don't do that, do we?
Well, if we got rid of the unions, perhaps we could go back to manufacturing.
Well, the unions are now running the country, aren't they? I mean, let's have a look at that. Do you know, another story that's caught my eye is a big story, actually, and this is have you seen the Israeli football fans and what they've had to endure on the streets of Amsterdam? I think it's 63 arrests have taken place now. This is after Maccabi Tel Aviv, an Israeli football team, went to play against Ajax in the capital. And just so happened at the same time, there was a good old pro-Palestine march. Anyway, there have been dozens of arrests after these rioters, pro-Palestine rioters, actively sought out Israeli football fans to support, actively sought them out. This is utterly disgusting. This is what's at the heart of these protests. This is what is at the heart of some of the communities over in the Netherlands and equally over here as well. This isn't about the poor children of Gaza. This is about out-and-out racial hatred, wishing to persecute someone else.
Yeah,
and the fact that this is happening, OK, it's not the streets of Britain, but the fact that this has happened over in the Netherlands should send shivers down our spine and be a wake-up call to all of us about what's going on our streets when we allow hundreds of thousands of people every week to cry out anti-Semitic chants, wave their dubious flags, say their dubious words, and essentially do the bidding of terrorist organisations, because this is what it leads to.
Well, let's be clear about this. So we can characterise the whole Gaza thing by way of the Palestinians being the aggressors, by way of Hamas. This incident in Amsterdam clearly is just a reflection of that, a characterisation of that, because we never see it the other way around. Do we see Israeli people stroke fans going out onto the streets looking for Palestinian supporters to hunt them down and punch them and kick them and throw things at them? We don't, do we? Every time you see a pro-Israeli protest in London, it is peaceful. You know, they're not calling for the eradication of Islam or the Muslim people because they're actually quite happy to live alongside them. But the other way round, when it comes to those that support Palestine and, an extremism of Islam, they want to see violence. They want to be bitter. They want to see the eradication of the Israeli state and so on. So what we're seeing in Amsterdam, I'm afraid, is a microcosm of what we're seeing in Gaza. But then on the left, the commentariat, of course, Alex, will still see them somehow ignoring the fact that a load of Israeli fans have been blatantly attacked in an unprovoked way because of a football match.
Hunted down. I mean, that is disgusting. 63 arrests. This isn't just like the odd, daubing of an anti-Semitic... I don't know. This isn't the odd daubing of an anti-Semitic sign on people's garage doors or something. This is actively hunting down 62 people who've been arrested.
Well, I'm slightly surprised. I mean, on the streets of London, some would be shouting at their DAB Plus devices and YouTube right now, Alex, saying, well, in London they wouldn't even have been arrested, probably.
Well, probably not.
Two-tier and all that.
It is absolutely vile. And the problem is, the mainstream media, not that we're not mainstream, the legacy media, that's a good Donald Trump-ism, they are sort of doing this blow-by-blow account of everything going on in Gaza, getting the mouthpieces of the Palestinians to, come on their programmes and repeat Hamas statistics. And as a result, it's whipping everybody up into a frenzy. They're allowing words like genocide to be spoken widely when I don't think anything of the sort is going on. It is a war. There are casualties of war. That is tragic. OK, that is tragic. But I don't see them doing a blow-by-blow account of what's going on in Sudan. I don't see them doing a blow-by-blow account of what's still going on in Ukraine. I don't see them doing it.
Yes.
They fetishised the tragedy of war in Gaza, and they're using it for their own political ends, and it's stoking up dangerous vitriol and racist hatred.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it any less racist or any less hateful when it's happening against a country where there is war. It doesn't. These are innocent people. These are football fans.
Yeah, and I think the point is that I think, particularly over the last 2 or 3 days with regard to the Harris defeat, the huge Harris defeat at the hands of Trump, what we have seen is the mask slipping from the mainstream media across the planet, really, and the likes of, Rory Stewart and Emily Maitlis and MSNBC and so on. And this is the same thing. We think we have, particularly as everything is so regulated, particularly in broadcast and so on by way of Ofcom, we think we have a balanced and unbiased media. Now, here on Talk, at least we say what we are, right? So we are a centre-right station, OK? That's generally what our kind of focus is. And actually, it's superbly and significantly supported, I would say, not just by listeners, but by actually a majority of the people and a majority of the electorate. However, when it comes to the likes of Channel 4, ITV, the BBC, Sky, the Financial Times,
they would
Independent...
never claim that they weren't anything other than,
but let me take the case of...
truth.
Let me take the case of The Independent. Now, The Independent newspaper is called The Independent, but it is nothing like independent. It is biased towards the left. So what we're now seeing, and I hope people are seeing this for what it is in the mainstream media, is that journalists, editors and publications themselves, most of them are absolutely and totally biased towards the left.
They're a campaigning media. They always have been. And like Newton's first law of physics, every action invites an opposite reaction. And that's what we're here for, folks.